Hi, I'm Natalie, and to start off, we're going to be talking about what is Marxism and Marxist culture. So, first, Karl Marx was a German philosopher, historian, sociologist, and he had a number of other different positions. Um, and Marxism is a social, political, and economical philosophy that was named after him, which was his idea that capitalism causes conflict between social classes, or the bourgeois and the proletariat. The bourgeois being the capitalists, and the proletariat are the working class or the laborers. And he believed that this conflict would start because the laborers had little power in a capitalist society where the business owners would pay the proletariats or the laborers the lowest possible wages in order for them to maximize their own profits. And overall, Marx believed that this conflict would lead to a revolution where the proletariats would overthrow and take over this capitalist society for them to gain power. And so Marx had a number of different theories about how all of this conflict would play out in this capitalist society. So within Marxism, we have the base and the superstructure, and according to Raymond Williams, determining these two is the key to Marxist cultural analysis. So in this case, the superstructure is the culture, ideology, norms, social institutions, and political structure in society. And in this article by Williams, he also described the superstructure in a broader sense, that it is a unitary area within which all cultural and ideological activities can be placed. And in the article, Williams gives two qualifications or amendments that he has about the superstructure, and they are that the superstructure is the reflection, imitation, or reproduction of the base, and that there's an essential homology of the two groups. And Williams argued that the first qualification, that the superstructure is the reflection, imitation, or reproduction of the base, this relationship could not be found in real cultural activities. And the second amendment, that there's homology between the two, describes that the relationship between the superstructure and the base is not direct, and is not of direct reproduction. So after explaining these qualifications, Williams argued that the base is more important than the superstructure. So the base is the primary production forces that generate the goods society needs. And according to Williams, the base is a process, not a state. So the base operates based on the superstructure, which explains the homologous relationship that Williams described between the superstructure and the base. Williams also explains that the notion of the base should be redirected towards the specific activities of men in real social and economic relationships, making it an always dynamic process. In terms of productive forces, Marx gave the notion of a specialized sense of primary work on materials which produce commodities. So in that sense, Williams argued that it is important to distinguish between primary production and economic relationships, or the primary production of society itself.
We talk about totality. Totality is a social practice about the notion of base and a consequent superstructure or consciousness. A key question to ask about the notion of totality in cultural theory is whether the totality includes the notion of intentions. These intentions follow through specific organizations and structures that could lead to certain social intentions, like defining society and its intentions, in which all of our experiences has been rule of a particular class. Raymond Williams also mentioned that if we fail to see a superstructure element, we fail to recognize reality at all. Next, I'm going to talk about what is hegemony. Hegemony is a domination of a diverse culture society by the ruling class, which manipulates its culture on society and its beliefs and explanations of values. In Williams' words, he said that hegemony is a set of alternatives and its processes of change. Hegemony is not to be understood at the level of mere opinions of manipulations, but rather a whole body of practices and expectations in our understandings of the nature of man and of his world. It is also a set of meanings of values that constitutes a sense of reality for most of the people in the society. Therefore, hegemony is equal force and consent.
So, an important aspect in examining cultural structures is defining residual and emergent cultures. Under Marxism, we use forms of culture like values and ideals to make this distinction. To gain a better understanding, we'll start with emergent forms of culture. Using the diagram shown on the slide, an example of an emergent culture form would be new ideals and values being created in society A. So these would be new concepts that have not previously been at the forefront of societal culture, hence the term emergent. On the other hand, when society A transforms into society B, those same ideals and values become residual culture. This is because they were formed in a previous version of society that no longer exists. However, some of those forms are instilled in the current society. Making this distinction is extremely important in analyzing cultural aspects of society because it allows us to make assumptions about society based on what they have retained from their previous iterations and what has been emerged in the current one. And then the next section, Class and Human Practice, discusses the emergence of a new class and how it disrupts Marxist theory. So the concept and kind of existence of the emergence of a new class ultimately tells us little to nothing about human practice in the dominant culture due to the complications and paradox it creates. However, the formation of a new class does give us insight into human practice in relation to the new form. By analyzing how society adjusts to this new formation of a class through things like media depiction, we can gain a degree of insight to how human practice is altered with the formation of this new class. The catch-22 is that there will always be an aspect of human practice that is not addressed in this way. We are able to study this relationship by also studying the relationship between art and society. Things like literature, fine art, and media all depict the way a society functions, and by consuming those pieces of art, we can gain a better understanding of how this new class has changed human practice within that society.
Hello, my name is Leo. Today I'm going to talk about critical theory as consumption. Critical theory, any approach to social philosophy that focuses on reflective assessment and critique of society and culture in order to review and change power structures. It can examine social conditions in order to uncover hidden structures. It also teaches that knowledge is powerful. Critical theory allows people to fully understand what consumption is. If consumption theory was the theory of taste, then critical theory functioned as sensibility. Hello, my name is Leo. Today I'm going to talk about object and practice. Raymond argues that the base includes the process of making art, but not art as objects. But art takes the general form of a practice within the culture. More importantly, our understanding of art and culture should not be limited to an understanding of art and culture as objects. Art and culture can be understood as emerging practice that arise from the certain condition of our culture.